record it, upload it to YouTube.
So if anybody hears anything from people not here, just let me know.
What are you gonna do? Can we communicate that to those that are in meetings? Oh.
It's recording and then we'll upload it
Okay.
to the website.
And if you wanna post that.
Just on mine?
No, it's not on yours, but.
No, but just-
Yeah,
On which?
the moms of Annandale.
Oh, sure.
Thank you.
What if there's a guy of Annandale watching?
Then you can start your own group there, Dustin. There you go.
That'd be great. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. So this is recording.
So it's recording, but it's not, it's only here, it's not watched.
Okay, thank you for being patient, and we are recording this meeting and we will be posting it for viewing at a later time. So, number one is I will call the meeting to order, and number two is the Pledge of Allegiance. Number three is the attendance, and all board members are present except for Melissa Mearing-Paulson. Number four is the approval of the agenda items.
So moved.
By Jen, second by Gina. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number five is community concerns. Okay, so there's quite a few on the list. So if you haven't spoken at a meeting before, we would just ask that you would come up here and we will hand you probably this microphone or that one. We'll hand you a microphone so everybody can hear you. So first we have Josh Dickinson.
Where do you want me to be? Right here?
So close, personal. I'm Josh Dickinson, coach of the Androids robotics team at the first robotics team 3058. I took over the
Oh,
team.
excuse me, can you use the microphone? Thank you. Thank you.
Josh Dickinson. My name is Josh Dickinson, coach of the Androids robotics team. That's first robotics team 3058. We have existed as a team since 2009. We're moving into our 16th year of competition in this 2025 competition season. This is my 7th year with the team. Started this wonderful position in 2018. We are funded by Cardinal Athletic Foundation, Pentair, Malco, Union Speed and Style, Country Chevrolet, Think Up Tech, Minnesota Grinding Incorporated, American Family Insurance, Lake Central Bank, Truman Welter Power Sports, Zoller Photography, In Hot Water, Cass Hardware, State Farm, Anchor Dock and Lift, Howard's Plumbing and Heating, Clearwater Tire and Auto Value in Annandale, Auto Value in Buffalo, Monticello Plumbing and Heating, Edina Realty, Cafe Jewels, Dura Supreme, A1 Acrylics, ALC, Simonson Lumber, Helgeson Family, First Robotics, Ginger Brothers Repair, Lundeen Brothers, R Labs, Annandale Vet Clinic, Annandale Lions Club, David Line, Waterfront, MP Next Level Technologies, Petty Brothers, Haas, Pace Industries, DeMaze Audiovisual, Surf Thing LLC, Alarm Product Distributors, Beckius Repair, Miller Jewelry, C&W Spinning, Bayer Built, Truckmate Toppers, SolidWorks, Rev Robotics, HSI Manufacturing, and of course, Independent School District 876. That's a lot of people. It's a lot of organizations. That's not through the last 15 years. Those are the people just in the last 5 who continually fund our team year after year. So why am I here? First of all, I want to say, I'm not here to convince you that robotics program is more important than any other thing you have on that list of potential cuts. It's not. It's not more important than mental health support. It's not more important than classroom sizes. That all makes a difference. It's not more important than supportive teachers who empower our future leaders. It's not more important than opportunities to explore interest and provide a base for really good adult decisions later on. It's not more important than that. That being said, I'm not going to go through the whole history of robotics, all the things that we've done. We've been here before and we've had those conversations. But I really needed to share with you some letters. I'm not going to share them all, we don't have enough time. But I do want to share some letters with you that were written, not just by our team members, not just by our alumni, but actually mentors and coaches from teams all around our area. You may have received some of those already. But I do want to just take a moment to acknowledge a few things. And by me not telling you the whole history of robotics and all the great things that we do, you're going to hear it anyway, from lots of different perspectives of people who just happen to come together for this great thing that we do. This first one's from Andy Gasser. I'm writing to express my strong support for Android's first robotics competition team. As a professional software developer, I have dedicated many hours to mentoring and supporting FIRST Robotics Competition and FIRST Tech Challenge teams in our region. I have been a mentor for STMA's FRC team since its inception in 2017, and I currently serve as the president of the STMA Robotics nonprofit. Additionally, I volunteer as a control systems advisor at FRC regional events, assisting with programming, sensors, and control systems. And I realize a lot of these things I'm saying, you're going, what is he talking about? What is a control system? What is an advisor for this or that or the other thing? That's sort of the point, actually, is there's so much stuff going on in what we do with FIRST. My two children, not mine, Andy's, my two children, now both high school graduates who went on to college, benefited immensely from their participation in the FRC and FTC programs. The programs not only had an impact on my children, but has been an activity my whole family has rallied around and brought us together. My wife, son, and I all continued to volunteer after our kids graduated. I witnessed firsthand how these programs benefited my children and other children on the team. In my time working with the STMA team, I have seen 3 students awarded full tuition scholarships to their university of choice. I have also witnessed countless students find a place where they can truly belong, within a fun, challenging, collaborative, and competitive hands-on environment. FRC, First Robotics Competition, is a unique and invaluable program that goes beyond traditional academics. While it fosters critical thinking, problem solving, and technical skills, it also cultivates essential life skills such as teamwork, communication, leadership, and perseverance. The competitive nature of FRC, while similar to sports, encourages a unique form of collaboration. Teams within our Central Minnesota Robotics Hub regularly work together, sharing knowledge, resources, and expertise. This collaborative spirit is deeply ingrained in the FRC culture, where raising the floor for all teams is a core value. I understand the importance of careful budget allocation. However, I believe that cutting the Androids team would have a significant negative impact on the students involved, the Annandale community, and the broader robotics ecosystem in our region. FRC provides opportunities for students who may not excel in traditional sports to thrive. It offers a platform to learn from real industry practitioners, develop valuable skills, and build confidence. I have had the pleasure of working with the Androids team and their talented programmer, who is a prime example of a student who would likely not have a key role within a traditional academic setting or extracurricular activity. FRC provides a unique and rewarding opportunity to contribute meaningfully to a team, feel the weight of a team relying on him in a safe environment, and develop crucial technical skills. The Androids team plays an important role within our Central Minnesota Robotics Hub. The Hub is a loose coalition of 20+ teams from throughout Central Minnesota. Cutting the Androids program would weaken the collaborative spirit and diminish the overall success of the Hub. FRC is not merely an academic club, it is a transformative experience that fosters creativity, innovation, and lifelong passion for STEM. I urge the Annandale School Board to recognize the unique value of the Androids team and continue to support this vital program. This message from this mentor is duplicated many times in this stack of letters I'm going to provide you. Here's a couple from some graduates of Annandale High School. This one is from CIC Thomas Ekstrom. For those who are reading this that do not know who I am Tommy Ekstrom, graduate of AHS class of 2021. Post-high school, I continued my professional and educational career at the United States Air Force Academy, which I am set to graduate from come May. Here at the Academy, I have earned the prestige of being on their competitive flying team, an honor of which only 9 cadets per graduating class of 1,000 get the opportunity to join and compete with. Furthermore, I have come to gain a slot to attend Air Force pilot training after I graduate and desire to fly fighters. I have continued my professional educational career by pursuing a degree in aerospace engineering, getting hands-on experience with things such as wind tunnel experiments, thermodynamic lab and jet engines, and conducting research for programs under the United States Air Force. All things you only get to do at top engineering programs in the world. None of this would be available to me if it were not for the Annandale Robotics program that I had the honor to be part of in high school. The program offered something nothing else in the district had, a hands-on learning program in a STEM field. The program was a key part in my getting my appointment to the academy, and I still lean on the lessons learned from robotics every day. The program offers challenges to young minds that allow them to develop critical thinking, teamwork, and most importantly, allow them to fail and to learn from it. This program is key to having broad options throughout the district that cater to all students' minds and what they want to pursue in the future. This program allows students to build skills that they will use for a lifetime. I'm a key example of this. The leadership, critical thinking, and technical lessons learned through this program I apply every day at USAFA and have allowed me to majorly succeed throughout my time here. It is critical that the school maintains this program. While it may be small and seem irrelevant to some, I can guarantee that the time and resources invested into the students through this program pays dividends in the future, not only for them, but for the nation as a whole. If you have any questions about my experience or would like to speak to me, you can contact me, and he has his contact information here. I'm just going to give you one more. This one's from Andrew Goldman. I write this letter to you in regards to the proposed budget cuts for the Annandale School District. My name is Andrew Goldman, and I was a student at the Annandale School System. I understand that budget cuts are not an ideal situation for any district, and that difficult choices have to be made. However, I believe that some programs are valuable to the extent that they should be prioritized in maintaining their funding. I was a member of the Annandale Androids robotics team for all 4 years of my high school education, team driver for 2 of those years, and design captain my senior year. During this time, I learned indispensable lessons that have benefited me as I have gone through my college experience and worked in professional settings. It is my understanding that currently the robotics team is fairly small at under 10 students in participation. Given this, I can understand how the cost-student ratio is quite high compared to other activities that the school funds. Despite this, I believe a case can be easily made for the justification of continued funding for the program. Whenever a program is cut from a district, it makes that much more difficult to restart the program. Materials, knowledge, public awareness, classroom space, funding, all must be garnered anew. This leads to a barrier to entry that can result in increased costs, difficulty in finding staff, and possibly the inability to revive the program. I believe that keeping the robotics program running during its current small team size and district financial situation is a small price to pay in comparison to the difficulty of eliminating and then starting back up the program. A large part of this is the difficulty in finding staff to be involved with the program. Having seen the time commitment and accumulation of knowledge by the mentors and program leaders of the team, their involvement with the program is an indispensable asset. Personally, I believe that there is at least a multiple-year learning curve for staff that join the program to understand how to effectively and competitively run the program. Ending this program means ending the passing on of program knowledge that is crucial to its continued effective operation. I am currently a student at the University of Minnesota Twin Cities in the Mechanical Engineering program. I am set to graduate May of 2025. And additionally, I've earned a minor in management. I can say with 100% certainty that during my time in the Annandale Robotics program, I engaged in more hands-on experience than I have throughout my entire college education. Almost all college programs in engineering focus heavily on learning and theory and math behind engineering concepts, but are quite lacking in the physical application of these topics. I've seen many of the students I take classes with struggle heavily to craft something in woodshop, disassemble a mechanical component, or understand how to manage a project timeline. Being able to participate in a robotics program has benefited me in all of these areas. First Robotics is a program that is future-facing. It allows students to interact with advances and technology in a way that no class or other school activity comes close to. To eliminate this program would be a large step in the wrong direction and diminish the opportunity available to Annandale students. There are letters here. Additionally, from Jacob Welter, graduate of Annandale High School, Marissa Dickinson, graduate of Annandale High School, Jessica Bring, a mentor for the Becker robotics team, Sandy Sturtz and Patrick Schuett, robotics mentors for Charger Robotics. Annandale High School graduate Mandara Ramnes, and from Ross Anderson of the Orange Crush robotics team. I could go on and on and on, because every single member of this robotics team currently has a story to tell. Every single person who has gone through the program has an even bigger story to tell, because now it's exponentially connected to everything else they've done in their life. And every single mentor and every single coach of the 200 teams in Minnesota would write these exact same letters to tell you how incredibly important this is. I hope you really think about that as you evaluate your choices. Again, we're not more important than anything else on that list. But we do provide a level of support to students and opportunities for students that are absolutely not available in any other place in this district. Thank you.
Elliot Wolf.
My name is Elliot Wolf. I am a part of Annandale High School. I'm currently 10th grade and on the Androids robotics team. I was sitting in English class and I thought, when would I ever put this stuff to use? But then it came around that I could write a letter to you guys. I'm like, well, would you looky there? As I was writing this, I was using so many things that I never thought I would use and just smiling at myself. This is my letter. My name is Elliot Wolf, and I'm a 10th grader at Annandale High School. I am confident that you will address my concerns seriously. I'm a member of Androids Robotics. I'm writing concerning potential cuts to many sports activities, including robotics. I hope the robotics program will not be a part of these cuts. There are many reasons why the robotics program should not be cut. First reason is that it is the only STEAM, which is science, technology, engineering, arts, and math program the school provides, at least at the high school level. That means if you cut the program, there will be no other STEAM activities for the students. You might be asking, okay, so what if there are no other programs like that? What difference will it make? Well, according to spacefoundation.org, one of the most notable and important benefits of incorporating robotics into the classroom is preparing and inspiring students for a STEAM-related career. That means the robotics team is helping kids like me get jobs we are interested in and potentially go into the best colleges for that area. Particularly since the need for more STEAM careers is going up, it is critical that we have people to fill those needs. Another reason is that it is a place for outsiders. I've been participating in baseball since T-ball up to 9th grade. I quit because of two reasons. One reason is that I felt I didn't belong and wasn't good enough at the sport. But the most important reason was that I knew I couldn't continue doing baseball and robotics. So I felt I would have a better chance in robotics. So far, I was right. Robotics has been so good for me. It is the only activity I am a part of. I can't describe how devastated I would be without robotics. I would have nothing else to be involved in. I sincerely hope I don't have to feel that feeling. The last reason is I have put so much effort into it. I'm sorry.
Okay.
hard to talk about our passion.
Yeah.
And you getting up here and talking with us is incredible. And the sense of belonging and participation and the team, and it's amazing, and having you share that with us is wonderful.
Last reason is I put so much effort into robotics. Every season, to put so much effort into building this one little thing, and to see the outcome of all that effort is so rewarding. Even if we don't do well in competition, I feel a sense of satisfaction every time. If this program does get cut, all that time, all that effort is all gone. The only thing left would be my memories of what once was. For these reasons, I strongly urge you not to cut Android robotics. When I've completed high school, I am planning on going to school for engineering and then getting a job in that field. I'm planning on engineering because my grandpa was an amazing engineer, and someday I want to be like him. The robotics program is preparing me and others for that career. With the need for people in that field going up, those needs must be met. Androids is a mark of all the work, time, effort past and present members have put into it. It is a place where outsiders come together and make things they never thought they could. Or what? Friends, family, and a meaning that would guide them for the rest of their lives. Thank you.
I apologize for the names if I mispronounce your name, but Connor Smood?
Hi, my name is Connor Smoody. I am part of the Endurance Robotics team. I go to the Buffalo Community Middle School as an 8th grader, and I just have this short thing that I wrote that I would like to read to you. Though I am not in the school district, I came here specifically for robotics, and it is very important to me and my teammates. Robotics may be less popular than other activities in the school district and other school districts, but it is one of the only activities for people who prefer thinking over strength. I love how this activity has made me grow over the past few months that I've been in this activity, and I hope that it may continue in the future.
James Holly?
Yes, you did. Don't worry about that. I am James Hawley. I am a senior at Annandale High School. And I'm going to be honest, I had no plan coming into this. I was pressured into this by my team, not by what they said, not by what they did, but because this is so important to them and myself. I've been in robotics for 5 years. I've seen a lot of people come and go. A lot of people came in thinking that they wanted to do programming, for instance, but even then, they couldn't do it. But they found another place to be. They found a home, a family, and frankly, it's just very important to a lot of people. For me, it was a place to feel belong with. I was a very rambunctious child when I was in my 7th year. I was a troublemaker, to say the least. And this gave me something to do. I wasn't out about and causing trouble. And they had to put through with a lot of me just in my annoyances. But now I have grown, and this team has helped me along that path. Not just academically, not emotionally, but just as a person in general. And I hope that someone can come to this team again and experience it just like me. And hopefully even better. Well, thank you for listening.
Before we move on, I just really want to commend Elliot, Connor, and James for coming to a school board meeting. Usually we don't have a lot of people ever attend. That's improving. And it's really intimidating to get up here and talk, and now you know that people are going to be watching at home too. So I do commend you for coming in and speaking so passionately about your activity. So thank you again. So next we'll move on to Robin Welter.
Hi, I'm Robin Welter, better known as Abby's mom and Jake's mom, and Mark's wife, Robin Welters. We have supported robotics for many, 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 many years. And I can tell you, I watched from the first young men that started in robotics that were in Cub Scouts, and Jake and a couple of boys couldn't wait to be old enough to start in robotics, and how much confidence and to get out a little more energy and for our motor heads and some that just didn't fit in somewhere else. How important it is. Very, very important. That's why Mark and I still sponsor robotics. Jake was a mentor even after he got done with college on his own time. He didn't get paid. He had to get off work early to do it. That's how important it still was to him. And we're going into an age of automation and everything else, and we have nothing else here for them that can teach them these things. They do fundraising left and right. And how do I know that? Those kids are at meat raffles, and if they can't make it, do you know who they still call? So that they can keep their spots? $50,000 they raised. Am I right?
Yep. Each year.
Each year. And give up time all year long for robotics. That's important, and that's commitment, and that teaches them a lot going forward into adult life. And we gotta start teaching them something. My other passion is special ed. And I'm very passionate about the paras and para support. And I heard that that may be cut. I can tell you in elementary school, they need that so that they can be in those classrooms with their peers. They learn more from their peers than they ever do from anyone else. And I can also tell you, there are 4 or 5 of them at Art and Textile that all went through Annandale that are very confident in what they do. They were included with all their peers. But that was only possible with para support. It is so, so important. I also seen a young lady that went through all through our school, through elementary, all the way up, that now is a cashier at Target. I have watched one young man that is a John Deere mechanic. He got sent to Georgia to work on equipment for the hurricane to keep up equipment. Those are our SPED kids that are working. But they can only do it with a good SPED teacher, a community, and a para. Very important. And my other question was, if I donate money just for paras, will for paras? Because Mark and I are very serious about keeping para support in ours, especially elementary school, because they learn more there than they do anywhere else. Thank you.
I just want to clarify, and just so you know, Robin, and everybody who's listening, there are no special ed paras on the list. So at least that's a plus.
I have one question. Your special ed paras, is it LD, is it EBD, DCD? That was my other question. Is it no paras getting cut, or is it only certain?
There's only a couple of general ed paras maybe on there. There's only maybe a couple of general ed paras. There's no special ed paras on the list at all.
What do you mean by general ed though?
General ed paras are paid out of general ed money, so they might be more like lunchroom supervision, or they might be title support. Maybe they're not.
But see, title support too is very important. If we don't have title, I can tell you.
The ones that are on the list though are paid for with general ed money. We don't have any that are paid for with special education or title money that are on there. Okay, we just want to be clear.
Hannah Fisher.
For those that don't know me, I'm Hannah Fisher. I am a physician assistant at Alina Health in Annandale. And today, I've spoken several times, I'm speaking on behalf of a group that we have started called Cardinals Rising. Myself, along with 4 other women in the community, Alyssa Damagala, Crystal Nutt, Emily Combs, and Jessica Bregman, thank you. After, I think it was the most recent work session, we're just literally talking in the hallway, and kind of said, you know what, we gotta do something. 3 failed bonds and 1 failed levy vote, and we just felt we could not wait another year to have the same conversation in another year and have to see more cuts in another year. So, here we are. So, Cardinals Rising was established in November of 2024 as a response to the failed levy and is a grassroots community effort intended to help bridge the gap by temporarily alleviating some of the Annandale School District budget deficits after the failed $1.5 million operating levy in November. We were again established by a group of local parents and community members. We are independent, third-party movement that is benefiting the Annandale School District. We are not ourselves a 504c nonprofit. We don't have that status. We've just started 2 months ago. So anything that goes into our effort is directly going to the school. We are not a replacement for a levy. We are just simply trying to do what we can as 5 women who work full-time, or one's a stay-at-home parent, but we have full-time jobs, we have kids we're parenting. We're just trying to do everything we can to just help make a difference. The anticipated reductions for the 2025-2026 school year can range, as the list we've seen, anywhere from $700,000 up to $2 million, depending upon how much is felt that needs to be cut. Last year there were 30 positions cut, $2.5 million. And after looking at the list of potential cuts for next year, we just felt a goal of raising $250,000 by the end of this month, when the board has to really make some of the final decisions, and $500,000 by the end of the school year to help any cuts that might be needed for next year. Again, just trying to help lessen some of the cuts for the budget. The goal of Cardinal Rising is not only to raise money, but to raise awareness. We have literally been boots on the ground, attending meetings, as many meetings as possible. We've been to township meetings, including French Lake, Carina, Southside, and Clearwater. Chamber of Commerce meeting. We have individuals at the City of Annandale this evening. I myself will be attending the Lions meeting on Wednesday. We've had an article in the Advocate. You may have seen us on WCCO. We have had an interview with the Star Tribune. We have future meetings planned, including the parent advisory meetings for all 3 schools, Kiwanis meeting. We are trying to get to the remaining township meetings as well. We have meat raffles coming up in March at the stadium, and we plan to do attendance at the halftime challenge on January 20th. We have all personally written letters to the legislators and encouraging everyone to do so as well. It has really been wonderful to be at these meetings, talking to the community members, listening to the concerns that they have. We do really have wonderful community members who really do want to support the school, but they do have some very legitimate and thoughtful questions and concerns. We are working towards getting some of those questions answered. We've had a lot of questions of just how can you help? We do have one meat raffle that we are still looking to fill on March 22nd from 5:15 to 6:30. So if you're available and you would like to sign up, we do have a spot on our Facebook page to do that. Thankful to the wonderful donors that we have had so far in our community. We have, as of today, raised just over $57,000 since December 19th. And we are very excited to hear how the cuts that are on the docket can be saved with this money. And just some facts for those that are not aware that some of the facts that we've been sharing at some of the meetings that we've been attending. The state funding is 18% below inflation. 5 years ago, that was just 9% below inflation. State funding does not have an inflationary cause, so the gap unfortunately continues to widen. Servicing special education students is mandatory. Government funding for special education is less than expenses incurred. That means the school districts have to use their general funds to cover the shortfall from the state. Annandale specifically has $1.6 million from their general fund to pay the gap in the state funding for the special education students. Approximately 33% per pupil lower than what it needs to be to educate these students. The state average general fund amount per pupil, which means all the funding that the school gets from a state, federal, local levy, donations, and investments, the average in the state is $15,727. Annandale's is $12,292, which equates to a $3,435 per pupil deficit. That is about $6 million. So that is significant. Our levy is $79 per student. I don't think that's news to anyone. The state average is $1,036 per student. In our county, the next highest is $600. Fun fact, the highest levy in the state of Minnesota is $5,200 per pupil. Our levy has basically been in place. The current levy, the funding that's coming from the local taxpayers has been in place since the early 2010s. That amount has not changed, and obviously inflation has. The $4 million rec park bond is going to expire in 2030. The $27 million elementary school bond is going to expire in 2032. The money that comes from the state has 65 plus different mandates that come along with the state funding. One of the biggest costs is now earned sick and safe time and required unemployment insurance for hourly employees. The state did help to fund that for 1 year, but then is leaving the financial burden to find that money on the schools thereafter. So that is a significant amount of money that the school is now responsible for paying. Some questions that have come up just in our questioning. One was, why are we putting a new track in if we have no money? Well, that's coming, the funding for the track is coming from capital money. It's not coming from operational money, so that is a separate fund. Just to give staff raises, a 1% raise would cost approximately $200,000. To pay teachers according to steps, which is years of experience, and lanes, which is level of education, would cost about $400,000 more. And just from a standpoint of all of us in our jobs, right? We all have jobs, we all like to have raises, we all are paying more for food and everything else. But just from an inflationary standpoint, shelter, so the cost of housing, has increased 5.2% from June of 2023. Transportation has increased 9.4%. Home insurance premiums have gone up significantly. Car insurance has increased 26% from 2023, and food costs are up by 5%. So teachers deserve a raise too, just like the rest of us. So after all of that, now one might say, and again, this has come from questions that we've encountered, well, obviously the state needs to give you more money. Well, yes, that's true. However, 65 mandates come along with state funding. The state is not going to find money in the back door. They're going to raise taxes. When you have an operational levy, that money goes into the general fund. The school board can use that funds where the need is the greatest, and there are not 65 mandates attached to that money. So one way or the other, your taxes are probably going to go up. How much is the difference? I don't know that. But from a funding standpoint, the money has to come from someone. And so a local operating levy gives the board just that much more flexibility. So if you have more questions just in regards to the Cardinal Rising campaign, we are on Facebook, facebook.com/Cardinals Rising. Reach out to any one of us if you have questions. We have flyers up here for anyone that would like to take one, and follow us along. We update every single day.
So we will move on to number 6 is our unfinished business. So 6A is the budget discussion. And we had a few questions or comments that were raised to us. And one in particular that we just want to make sure that everybody is very clear on is the property that we own. And it was suggested that we sell it and put that into our general budget, which I'm going to pass it over, and then that is not the case, but we'll give a little bit more of an explanation so you can spread that's not a fix. We can't sell the land and use it for this budget.
So yeah, when the land was purchased, we used funds that were from the operating capital, and so that's our Fund 5 is what we call it. And those funds cannot be used for any classroom type of expenditure, so whether that's teacher salary, or classroom supplies, or, even we're talking about mental health, those type of positions either. It can only be used for buying equipment or other type of facility type of items.
So the next thing that, Hannah did a good job talking about the levy a little bit, but to talk a little bit more about the numbers and kind of what we get when we're talking about potentially 1.2 million is sort of the number that we've used most, referring to the dollar amount of cuts. That 1.2 million is assuming that there are going to be no salary raises, no step raises, and what that will do is add $500,000 to our fund balance. Yep. But it still leaves us $1.6 million short of our fund balance goal. We project that this year we will have operated at an $800,000 deficit. Next year, we project that our fund balance will be down to $800,000. That's all the reserves we have left. Meaning, we're another year away, like this year, away from having zero in our fund balance, having zero reserves. That's including $1.2 million cuts. So that's why we need to add that $500,000. A lot of people will ask, why are we worrying about adding money to our savings? Because we're close to running out. So another issue then was the dollar amount. What do we want to ask for? And I think, we asked for 750 last time. We got some criticism, people saying, well, we just picked that number. It was a random number that was just thrown out there, and that's completely not the case. Another thing to remember is that this money from a levy, if it passes this year, will not kick in until fiscal year 27. Next year, there will still be no levy. So even if we get a $750 levy passed, that adds $1.5 million to our budget. 1.5 million is close to what we're cutting. It's not as much as people think. So asking or passing an $850 levy only adds 1.7 million. Again, it's going to help and it's going to put us in a better position, but it's not the cure-all. A huge variable is going to be enrollment, and with projected decreasing enrollment every year, it's still not a pretty picture. If we do pass those $700 to $850 levy, it's not like everything goes back to how it was. We see what 1.5 million or $2 million of cuts looks like. When we're adding it back, it won't be like, okay, we can add back 15 positions. It will be adding back slowly and responsibly. So this is going to be a process. The levy is obviously crucial, and without it, we're in a whole different scenario, but even with it, there's still work to be done. With a $700 to $850 levy, we will still remain short of our fund goal balance of 1.5 months of reserves, or $3.2 million. So again, there are lots of things to be done, but the numbers between 750 and 850 are not made up numbers. They do put us, I think we established that 750 was about average for the district, for Wright County. So I think Hannah said something about $600 being the next highest. That's not the case. They're much higher, and I think Maple Lake alone is $758. So,
Yeah, Howard Lake is at 600.
yep, Howard Lake's at 600. So there's tons of surrounding. Obviously, we're one of the lowest, if not the lowest around, aside from St. Michael. So that will be crucial to get that passed. And 750 to 850 is kind of the dollar amount we're looking at. There will be more exact as we get closer. Right now, obviously, cuts are sort of that's happening within the month. But as we pass that and start focusing more on the levy and the amount, we'll hear more specifics, exactly what a levy means for the fiscal year 27.
Another thing besides the amount too that I think should be discussed and decided upon soon is letting people know when will there be another levy vote and strategize surrounding that. I know that question has come up quite a bit, and I know there's a lot that are interested in getting involved in awareness, cohorts, ambassadors, what have you, along the lines of the Cardinals Rising, but expanding upon that from a community standpoint, which amazing job, Cardinals Rising, that is incredible to see. So can we discuss kind of the strategy behind the timing as well?
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, because that's one thing I wanted to touch base on too. And Hannah mentioned this, and I know that a few of the board members and myself and Rick, we were able to go to a legislative forum on January 2nd that was held in St. Michael. And our legislators are slated to meet, start their session tomorrow on the 14th of January. And that to me, and I think is something to discuss with this board too, is that, to Hannah's point, really getting the word out, because that is the biggest issue here. I mean, in the whole scheme of things, that is the big issue. that state funding has been inadequate for school districts for a long time. And things in education are changing. And we're going to hear later today too from some of the high school staff about how they are looking at ways to kind of meet the needs of today's learner so that they're getting a better education in front of our teachers the best we can. And in a way for us to save some of that, the funding and provide some of that funding for us instead of that going elsewhere. And so those are things that we can do kind of right now, but to me, and again, this is something to discuss, but getting some type of a legislative task force together for Annandale to push letters. And I know Jenna had sent me an email too about some templates and things. They're out there. Like these things are out there. The ways to advocate for your district, they're out there. And it's just a matter of really getting the word out to folks and really making it kind of as easy as possible for them too, so it's not a big time consuming thing for people, because that's hard as well. People are busy. And just recognizing the importance of that's really where this problem is at. That's the root of it. And then yes, I think the next step too is to form some type of task force too with the levies. Now for the levy, we've talked about this before, but unless you go out in November, there's 4 other times you can go out, but it has to be by mail only. Very rarely does that happen with school districts. Most of them go in person in November. And if we were to do that this coming November, that decision would have to be made around that July timeframe. So just so people are aware of that. But I do think it is important to people to understand too, and I think most in this room do, that when it comes to revenue, there's basically 2 sources of revenue, and it's your enrollment. It's how many kids do you have in your district. And for a long time, I would say pre-pandemic, we were doing very, very, very well. And we were literally 40 to 60 to 80 kids per year were coming here. And I think this building that we're all sitting in right now is a good testament of that. Approximately 120 students per class, and then by the time, within about 4 or 5 years, we had about 150. And so we know that students gravitate here. Pandemic changed a lot of things, because once some students really liked online, the learning online, they liked that style, and it just made learning more flexible for folks and for our kids, especially our older kids. Now, I've been accused of blaming our budget shortfalls on our voters. I'm not blaming any of our voters. I mean, Hannah, those numbers you read are real. They're real for everybody. The increases to insurance, increases to groceries, all of that stuff. It's just, those are just the facts though. When it comes to revenue, we have enrollment, and then we have, unfortunately, that we need to go tap into our local taxpayers. And we know that a lot of districts do, and it doesn't take very long for districts to get behind when those districts, that's why we compared to Wright County. Those are the schools that we are in competition with, if you wanna look at it like that, because there are many, many families that school shop, and they go around and they take a look and see what's offered, and they can do that. And that's an opportunity they have that those that are my age, that wasn't an option back in the day, but it is now. It's a very, very real thing. And so, yes, it's important that schools stay competitive. That's why that revenue is so important, and that's why we have to go to our taxpayers to try to get us to where we are about average with those around us. We do not like doing that. We don't like to have to go to our taxpayers, and we shouldn't have to, but unfortunately, that's the way education is at this point in time. So, anything else with enrollment, the open enrollment, adding? Yeah, so the open enrollment, we get that question quite a bit too. But open enrollment for us generates about $2 million in revenue. And again, I'm gonna refer to Hannah because she made a comment about the lack in special ed funding. And so that the gap that we have in special ed funding, that 33% that we have to pay is about $2 million. And so Some people look at open enrollment and they kind of frown upon it and say, why are we doing that? Why are we educating other people's kids that don't pay taxes here? But for us in districts like us, especially right now in the situation we're in, $2 million is huge. And so we're very fortunate that we have those kind of numbers, and not a lot of schools do.
Tim, can you remind us of how many we have open enroll, and then how many we have open enroll out? So.
Yeah, that number is about, we usually have a net gain, I want to say about 400. Does that number sound about right? We usually lose a couple hundred, and that's been going back since, I mean, as long as I've been here for 18 years. And we usually gain, 450 to 500, does that sound right?
The number you're losing, is it to other districts, or does that number include homeschool?
That only includes those going to different districts. Yep. One of the things too, and I don't know if we've mentioned this before in a setting like this, but in talking to it, actually I think it was when I went around talking to some of the different, I went to talk to all the buildings in the district. And one of the questions that came up, very good question that came up after the first group I met with, the number of homeschoolers that we had. And again, I am not blaming the homeschoolers. I'm not blaming those kids that want to go online. That's not what this is about. It's just the facts. I mean, that's where the money comes in, and if we're not getting those kids, we're not getting that money. And so these are very, very hard decisions for these families. I totally understand that and respect that. But the homeschool does not include the PSEO students either. And that was a good question from one of our staff members, does that include them? And it's not. And so just to kind of refresh memories maybe of people that have heard this in the board, prior to the pandemic, we had, if you're going to homeschool, you need to register with your home district with your intent to homeschool. That has to happen by October 1st. Prior to the pandemic, we were at anywhere from 22 to 25 students that would do that. After the pandemic, it would range from anywhere from 44 to 48 for a number of years. This last year, we were at 107, this current year, by October 1st. So that number jumped exponentially. And we are down 56 students right now from where we started the school year. And that's where we look at what is that number, that we need to look for. We, need to take a look at this from a very, think conservatively. It's been about 2 students a week is what we've seen since the beginning of the year. Now, I certainly hope that trend doesn't continue, but we have to look at that when we are looking at our budgets as well. And you have to plan a little bit more conservatively, obviously, when you take a look at that stuff. So, again, those are just the facts. Not blaming any one group, not blaming our taxpayers for not voting this through in November. Hard decisions, totally get that. Not blaming our homeschool families or those that go online, those are tough decisions as well. However, we need to think outside the box, and in a little bit you're going to hear from my high school staff again, like I mentioned, of some ideas that maybe we can hopefully provide students a really, really solid education here while keeping them here.
I just have a follow-up question on the homeschool/online. I think this was talked about at the previous work session, but something was said about doing exit interviews, if you will, or surveying, talking to these families, and not trying to change their mind, but more just dig into why, some of the decision-making behind those choices. So can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, that was talked about, and we are in the process of doing that. And the steps that we're kind of looking at here is we want to inform the board today and tonight about what the plan is for the high school. And we have a survey that is very close to ready, saying with those exact same things. We want to find out, what was it? Why did they leave? If they're willing to tell us. And is there anything that we could offer that might entice them back? Was there something missing from their education here at the Annandale School District that caused them to leave, or that if it was here, that it might bring them back here? So thanks for bringing that up. I wanted to make sure I mentioned that tonight.
think too, as we continue to talk about budgets and reductions, as we're talking and so many are, you know, happily listening and learning along with us, is with what's just been discussed is to how many different things come into place on what creates the budget itself. And so pre-pandemic, we were and even during the pandemic, we were a very fortunate district where we gained students. And so as Tim has talked about enrollment, that is a big key factor into the budget itself. And then you get, as Hannah had alluded to, the 65 mandates that can come with some of the dollars that the government gives us to provide that education. It just, again, it's not just one simple answer as if you do this, you'll have the amount of money that you need. And so I'm just hoping that people are hearing that and understanding, and please ask questions if you need clarification, because it is not one thing. And so with having all of that growth prior and during the pandemic to go to losing students, it's just something that's new to us. And the movement for different opportunities outside of public education is also on the rise. And so as we're learning, those dollars change and we're having to have these difficult conversations. So I just wanted to kind of highlight that and sum it up a little bit.
One other thing that I'll mention is when we were at that legislative forum, they kept saying this historic funding that schools got, and it was these historic funding with 65 mandates that you had to do in order to get the money. And I will say some of those things, I don't have the exact number, but some of those things it's not money that we could spend on salaries and on teachers and paras and programs. And so the one thing that was kind of, I don't know, a little positive maybe that we heard was of the 3 legislators that were there, that they said, well, there's not a lot of money in the state right now, right? Like, I don't know, we're not gonna get any great huge amounts of money from the state, but they were saying we should look at those 65 mandates and change those. Instead of the word must, have it say you may. It could change our school immensely. So if you are gonna write a letter, my suggestion would maybe to place that in your letter, because that would make a huge difference in school funding. So, anybody else?
Yeah, of the letter to the legislators, super simple. We have a template. So one of the things that they said at this forum on January 2nd, the legislators, they said that calling and emailing really does make an impact, and furthermore, your story. So don't just copy paste, but add a little paragraph or a big paragraph of your experience. How have you been affected? They said stories really matter. So as far as getting the actual, there's a link so you can put in your address and see who represents you, where you live. So for me, it was 5 individuals. I mean, it literally took me 10 minutes or less to email them. And so I think that would be really great if we can all do that. It's free, it's simple, it's quick, and it's all kind of shelled out for you. So between the district and I know Cardinals Rising is where I got my verbiage, really easy to do and impactful. So just wanted to plug that.
The question was the easy place to find the 65 mandates. Unfortunately, there isn't, like the MDE doesn't have a list, so you'd have to go and search it on the state's website.
I found it, if you would like it.
Of course.
I was only asking where to find the 65 mandates, so if someone wanted to write the letter to actually look and see, like.
Well, I found the bill, the actual bill
Right, so I would like to include that as well.
More state money because we aren't doing these 65 mandates? It's more than certain money can only go for certain things.
Let's move on. Okay, nobody else has any other questions or comments? I just would actually like to explain one more time that we, as school board members, do not know everything that goes on in a school. Okay, I think it would be very presumptuous of any of us to say that we know everything. We have wonderful people that work in our district, who lead our district. We had amazing meetings this last week where we looked at the list and we asked every question that we could think of, and then we left, and then we emailed back, and it was, yeah, with the admin team, because this is very difficult. I don't have to tell you guys that. This is difficult, but we do really have a lot of trust in the people that are working in our buildings.
Maybe just touch on a little bit of process of how we, that isn't, like, we don't come up with the list, this is a collaboration of.
Okay, so sometimes the question is, who comes up with the list? Did Katie make the list? Did Jen? Did Tim? Did Gina? Whoever. It's the board gives the directive for the amount of money that we tell the administrators to look at your buildings, look at the school district, and unfortunately prioritize. And kind of put it 1 through whatever. There have been changes on the list, for sure. We've seen things move around with discussions, and that's good. That's what we should do. But I just think there's been a lot of thought and time spent, and it's not easy. But I just thank you for the time that you did spend with us explaining everything. So I will move on to 6B, high school presentation, and is it Charlie? Charlie and Joy. Charlie and Joy, come on down.
Okay, well, it's kind of different. I don't know who to face quite that, but with everybody here, I want to first of all thank you for an opportunity to do something that was refreshing given the grave and difficult task of just prioritizing and things like that. And what we are here to just share with the board and with the public is just some opportunities we have in terms of how we might produce more revenue. And when we looked at different ways of creating more money coming into the district, we're looking at just some, there's no one grand solution for any of it. We're looking at pieces that we can tangibly see that where we can see where we're losing students. And sometimes you look at just a variety of things. Is it, there's a number of questions you can ask. Is it the culture of the building? Is it the programming? Is it, just things that we can look at and respond to. So what we looked at specifically is just some things we were hearing from our public as they're leaving. As we have students leaving us, we know some things. We're working with Tim to have a more scientific approach so that we get a bigger look than what we're sharing tonight. But one of the things we're seeing is a lot of students are leaving for online. A lot of students are leaving for, we have a higher number than we've ever had of our students at Wright Academy, ALC, and just our work experience students. Our programming is relatively small, where we could have some expanded pieces. So we're gonna talk a little bit about what that might look like. And Crystal, if you can switch to the next slide here. The part that really, when we have hard times, sometimes we can dig deep and look at what our values tell us. What do we believe? And when we have a difficult task ahead of us, we can look at the values that we strive to attain and look at how do we respond to this opportunity to make Annandale for everyone, so that we don't have Annandale students leaving for other places. And if you've ever seen the TED Talk by Rita Pearson, I highly recommend it. And the quote, I think, encapsulates it. Every child deserves a champion, an adult who will never give up on them, who understands the power of connection and insists they become the best that they can possibly be. And when we look at students leaving us, we wonder, how can we be their champion? And one area that I think has a lot of misconceptions about it, we have 16 students at our ALC right now. Typically 3 or 4 is a more of a number that we see, and one of the criteria is credit deficiency. And coming out of COVID, we've seen students struggling more with greater numbers than ever before. And when we look at partnering with the ALC, they've been a good partner. There's no issue with them, but I look at how do we get our kids in front of our staff that we believe in so much? And how do we utilize our staff in a way that just has a little bit of a different model of instruction for students who need something a little bit different. So what we've put together here, and Joy's gonna talk in just a moment, if you can switch to the next slide, Crystal. How would an ALP look? What we're looking at is just a vision of Access Learning Academy that would explore a niche within our school, a school within a school, that would not look at, adding something that would cost the district more, but that would actually keep more students here or even bring students in, and in addition to it, bring revenue streams that we don't currently have. And the result of it has possibilities not just of it being cost neutral in the initial stages of it, but expanding our revenue so that we're keeping more students here and growing our enrollment. And so when you see the model up here, it's basically a school within a school. And the benefit of a school within a school, a lot of ALP or ALC, alternative learning centers are an offsite, they're an offsite program. And so you have to have standalone staff. When you have an ALP, what can be really beneficial of that is that you're still keeping students really feeling a part of the district. You're giving them something a little bit different that can help them recover either credits or get added support. And you're also keeping some staff that benefit AHS as well. You're sharing staff rather than having staff away from them. So it does allow us to potentially recoup some of the positions that are vital that we're looking at reducing and repurposing that in a way that keeps students here and also keeps some of our valuable staff in a way that we want to benefit. I've got Joy Turner with me. Joy has experience through her, a couple different stops along the way, and has extensive experience in this. So she's going to talk a little bit about the ALP possibility here.
Hello. Oh, here. Jesus. That one's doing good. Can you click to the next slide? So as you just saw in that slide that we just had, Access Learning Academy would be kind of a three-pronged system. One which would be addressing online needs of students. Another would be addressing an alternative learning academy, which would allow students to learn in our school, kind of in a separate location in our school, kind of in a different way. And then the other is to address kind of some of the work experience needs that some of our kids have had in the past. So our mission statement for Access Learning Academy is to provide an alternative pathway to graduation. Our commitment is to strong relationships and community partnerships, encourages students to actively participate in their academic and personal growth to become positive community members. And we're going to do this by valuing students and emphasizing, making sure students feel like they belong. Sometimes what we find in alternative learning programs is students come from the high school setting, their traditional setting, and they feel like the setting is just too big. It's too overwhelming. 30 plus kids to a class can be just too much. And while we like to keep class sizes small as much as we can, one of the things that an alternative learning program does is really hone in on kids that really kind of fit the bill of being there. We're also going to help kids reach high expectations through curiosity. And so an alternative learning program can be a place where students are really doing a lot of different hands-on type of learning. They're pursuing personal growth and responsibility by challenging themselves both academically and personally. So that slide before when Mr. Bacher talked about being a champion in someone's world, I think we've all had an opportunity in education at some point in their lives, whether it's elementary, middle, or high school, where someone told us we could do far above what we thought we could actually do, or we could accomplish that thing that we didn't think that we were good enough at. And then when we do, the light bulb goes off and we're all excited. That's what Access Learning Academy would be for many students, is maybe they've been disengaged in education. You can click to the next slide. They've been disengaged in education. Maybe they need variety. Who are these students? They're students that need variety. They've been disengaged with education. Stuff has just been hard. They're not necessarily an IEP kid or a kid with special education needs, but they're a kid that needs more flexibility. They need a smaller setting. They're committed to their own education, but they kind of want to do it their own way or a different way. They might have a history of trauma. They might be behind in credits. They might be struggling with mental health or credit deficient, or have a history of absenteeism. And again, this is our opportunity as a district, and specifically at the high school level, to take grades 10 through 12 students and help them have a belonging, a place where they can succeed and achieve and have access to different aspects of education that can help them become a positive member of society. Move on to the next one. Alternative learning, what does it look like? It looks like classes where the community is embedded in the class. What does that mean? Well, we're talking about the community of the high school, but then we're also going smaller to the Access Learning Academy community. What does that look like? They will become a family. They will have their own criteria of what is expected in class, all of those things, but they're also a greater part of the community at large of being of Annandale. One of the things that ALPs often do really well is partner with people in the community. So the partnerships with the people in the community, whether it's businesses and other leaders or mentors in the community, having them come in and be either speakers or come alongside and teach a content area alongside a teacher. Different opportunities that we can encourage our students to learn in a different way are going to be really important. We're going to have strategic instruction tailored to individuals in a smaller setting, so we'll be focused on what students need. If you can go into that link there, that's a student year-long schedule. What might a schedule look like for a student that is in an ALP? It would look like there'd be a class in media production or publication writing, where they are basically, there's a yearbook that's AHS is putting out, but there's also a yearbook or a video or something that Access Learning Academy in their own setting, in their own family that puts out. So they'll be working on that throughout the year. There might be a block where there's English and social, a combined class where they can touch base on both. You can get either a credit in English or a credit in social based on a variance of teacher and whatnot. And that allows some flexibility, both with how we schedule teachers, but also for students to be able to get the credits that they need. Integrated science, and maybe their last block of the day would be an online class, which Mr. Bacher is going to talk about in a little bit. You can go back to the regular slide. Another thing that's often embedded into alternative learning programs is service learning. And one of the things that I'm super passionate about is seeing our students at Annandale High School and in an Access Learning program or a learning academy like this, is to be able to give back to the community. And one of the things that you see a change in students when you are allowing them to take a leadership role that they might not have been given maybe in the regular classroom, that they're taking on a leadership role where they're able to give back in some way. Students who might not have ever considered themselves a leader now become a leader. And that helps us all when we're talking about the greater good of our community, society. These kids are given access to opportunities that they might not have had in the regular traditional ed setting. And that's a big piece of, we're not just educating, which it's not just, but we're not just educating the student, but we're educating the whole person. So we're making sure they get all the resources they need, whether it's mental health support, whether it's, hey, I don't know how to get this job. Those teachers are walking alongside them beside their curriculum, but they're walking alongside each of these students and making sure that they get all of their needs met to the best of their ability. We're creating leaders and showing kids that, you know what, you don't have to be, you know, the best athlete or the best this or best that. You're gonna have opportunities to learn and grow and become the learner that you want to be, and we're gonna push you along the way. So I'm really excited about kind of putting it all together and seeing and being a part of a program that has been successful in the past. I know it works. And when you have, especially kind of the right people at the helm, cheerleading this on, it can be a very, very powerful thing, not just for Access Learning Academy, but for Annandale High School and then the community at large as well. You can go to the next slide. What does an application or onboarding process look like for a student? This is some details that we don't need to get into completely, but a student applies. When a student applies, they have to fill out the application. They have to write an essay, for example, of why they want to be there, why a different learning type of program would be important for them at this time in their life. They could talk about being credit deficient. They could talk about just, I have social anxiety, or I feel like I have social anxiety, and this is just not, the traditional setting is just not working. I'd like to try something different. Whatever they want in that essay, and that essay helps the people interviewing get to know really who the student is and what type of learning needs that they might have. A student commitment. So again, this is a choice program. It's not, you are sentenced, you have to go to this alternative learning program. No, kids choose to be there, and they choose to be there because they have different needs, and they'll make a commitment that is their own, and sign that with both themselves and their parents. We do a student history form where it tells us about your history in different classes, what was hard, what was easy, what's difficult, are there mental health concerns, is there any other use issues that we need to look at? All of those types of things we take a look at. Then we do a student-parent interview, and we get to know the student and the parent and the concerns that they might have and questions they might have. And then finally, with a continual learning plan, that helps us keep the kid on track for graduation. So making sure that they're hitting all the milestones, making sure they have all the credits that they need. One of the things that the ALP also covers would be what would be considered extended day. So if a kid is credit deficient beyond the current school day, we would have extended day classes where the student would be able to come twice a week and be able to gain back that credit. It also affords us the option of having summer school. And so all of this continual learning plan keeps all of those credits kind of in check. And we make sure that the kid is making the progress that they need. And that keeps the funding in-house, obviously, versus sending it to another district as well. This part is the work experience that will be partnered with this as well.
And huge thanks to Ms. Turner for putting that together and for having her valuable experience really going into discussing this. Having worked in an ALP for a couple of years myself, I think the thing that, the misperception about it that often is out there is that that's where kids go when they get kicked out of school. That perception honestly makes me, just honestly sad, because working in an ALP, I've encountered some of the most memorable and amazing students that I've ever worked with. And sometimes along the way, the system got big, their needs were great, and they weren't being met. And along the way, we watched the student walk away. We want the student to come to us. We believe in the people who are going to be in front of these kids, who are going to make a difference. And the revenue is a great piece, but I think what a great way to demonstrate our values to these great kids. So that's what I'm fired up it's been rejuvenating to think about this in a time where we're coming up with a list that you're not putting anything bad on a list, you're putting great stuff on a list, and it's just heartbreaking. But to just piece by piece look at who we are as a school system is huge. So that's kind of my experience with an ALP is that it's a tremendous opportunity for us to make a difference for kids who maybe feel like something's, maybe they feel regret, maybe they feel like it's too much, and we're just able to support them. And then it's flipping it on its side. Instead of you're sent there, it's a privilege. When you're in here, we're holding your seat, and you're committing to being better than you've been. Because it's all about self-improvement, it's accountability, and it's different, not better or worse. So looking at another area that would be housed in our Access Learning Academy would just be our work experience. We currently have between 20 to 23 students, give or take, each year that are seniors in our work experience. One thing that we're seeing is a lot of juniors that are leaving us for work experience for schools that offer it a year earlier. So by offering that a year earlier, and then looking at a couple different flexible ways that we can really just help. We know we have students who like to get up really early and work. Okay, those of you who are parents who've seen your teenagers sleep till 2 o'clock you might find that hard to believe, but we have them. They are here, and they love to work early. So just opening up a little student choice, so they're not just coming in the morning and leaving for their work experience. We will add some flexibility where they have the choice to maybe work earlier and come for afternoon classes. That also serves another purpose of balancing. Our morning classes will be very large. If we offer that, we can have just a small strategy here and there that can balance out some of the class size adjustments that we make, also while offering more here. So if we offer this for our juniors, the other piece that we would look at is offering the option for seniors to take some of their classes online. Why seniors, why not juniors? Well, let's do one thing at a time and see how it goes. Okay, I'm a big believer in a piloting model where you start with a small number, so if you're troubleshooting, you're not troubleshooting massive problems, you're starting with bite size. And the other part is, a lot of juniors struggle. One of the most frequently failed classes in our building are our math and our sciences. Not because those teachers aren't as good, it's hard. Okay, so we're looking at keeping it in person for our juniors, and then our seniors, oftentimes they'll finish their math credits and their science credits. So it just makes sense to start there, see how it goes, and be open to what possibilities come there. So we can go ahead to the next part, which does get to the online learning. This is the number one thing we're seeing for when we're losing students. I'm gonna go online, okay? There are some students who go online and do an outstanding job. I have 3 of my own kids. I can tell you, one of them would have done well with this, 2 of them would not have. Not because they're any better or worse. It's a very independent person who is probably 18 going on 25 and just has, that's usually who does well in this. I'm sure there's other situations, but that's typically when we're getting kids back from online, it hasn't gone well. There are a lot of programs out there online that are good. There are a lot that are getting kids in the door and are not serving their needs. It's a huge opportunity for us to try and just look at what online learning, can do for kids in this particular setting with just a small, just a bite size. And from here, we have the opportunity to pivot quickly if we find another need. So the other piece too is having a local online class. The students going online and they're in our work experience program and they get behind, we can inform them very quickly that you're online until you fall behind, and then come on in, okay? And until you get caught up, we're gonna support you until you get caught up. That's something that is not widely offered, and the districts that do that typically see, good results. So part of it, when we look at who could benefit, we're starting with that bite-sized piece, but there are also other things that happen. Sometimes we have kids who come in, their family moves in 2 weeks before the end of the quarter, and they go to school. They're not necessarily earning credit. But if you put them on one course online and allow them to start, maybe you put them in a couple of classes and get them integrated, but you might be able to get them going on one class and get credit sooner so that they're not in limbo longer. So there's some other niche uses for this that we can explore. And then Joy talked about credit recovery. We can have evening classes and summer school on site. And now, when we send a student to Buffalo to get credit recovery, we get 10% of that money to educate them and send them over there essentially for transportation. Outside the school day credit recovery, 60% goes to Buffalo, and it's just 70% is what they fund those programs at. Now, we get that money, 70%. So there's potential for revenue to have these programs right here at our school, and again, put our folks in front of kids. So there's additional revenue streams and potential with that. And then I mentioned agility and mobility of programming for students. One thing that smaller school districts struggle with is sometimes you might have a great idea for a program, but may not have enough kids to justify having the programming. And what an opportunity to reach out to some of our friends, neighboring districts, whoever might be interested, and partner so that we can make those programs more cost efficient. And what this comes down to is this is the modern need, just a little bite size of the modern need of current students and current high schools. And if we resist change, we can, I'm a big in-person guy. I don't like emails, okay? I guess I like texting. It's kind of convenient to tell my kids to let the dogs out, but I don't like that stuff. I'm kind of old school, but I gotta change. And we all have to kind of change too. And this is an example of how we start to see what that change feels like. We do it in a way that if we keep 12 of our students, okay, we have 30 that are possible candidates for alternative learning currently that meet the criteria. But 12 of them would be right around $100,000 just staying here in our district, in addition to serving our kids better. And we can go to the next one here and you'll see a little bit of this. Edmentum is, if we can click into slide 7, and let's go to 7 on this. Oh, the need here. I will go, you know what? I'm getting a little long-winded anyway. I will paraphrase and make that available for folks. But right now for Edmentum that houses a lot of the online modules, for 90 seats, which is huge, $11,000 a year, okay? For 30 seats, which is what we would be starting with, that would be roughly about $4,500 per year through Edmentum. And you can purchase additional seats if you find that you're over that on a kind of an a la carte method there. And then if we look at, you know, again, some of the how and why and in what way does this pay for itself, that's a piece of the puzzle there, is you'd have to have the infrastructure, which this gets us in the game of having the infrastructure. And then if we look at the next slide there, the other piece is just the benefits that are beyond just Access Learning Academy. The top two are the biggest and most important here. We're one step closer to all students having a champion. And it is for everyone. We want to model that. Second part, we're moving more toward the modern learner and meeting the needs. That just, again, a piece of the puzzle. Revenue, piloting, the relationships here. We have staff that know the students, niche programming potential, and just the possibility to expand into internships and other experiences through an expanded work program. And then the other piece that I'm going to get to in a second here, shared staff. So this isn't we move a staff member over here and you don't get them. It's we save a little bit of money, and some of those positions, we're going to need staffing to make this happen. It just keeps a little bit more of our staff intact, not only for this program, but for everyone. And if you go to the next one here, Crystal. Highlighted some of these, and we've talked about these. I'm just kind of recapping it there with some of the specifics of how the revenue works. And then if you go to the next one, the personnel needs. And this is where I get to what we would need. We would need a portion for every, we would need 0.67 staff to get a half day. So if we started with a half day and offered 2 sections where students could go first and second block in a school within a school, their school day, the third block might be an online class that we offer, or it might be that they take an elective or something like that at AHS. That's the other benefit. We don't have to bus people back and forth if we have an off-site center. We share staff, and again, we can start small. We could staff it for a whole day if we had 1.33 staff, just saying. We could, but we are trying to be prudent with our ask as well. And so we're recommending 0.67, which would get us to that point. The counseling position would be something that the counselor would serve both as a lot of the online management that would be shared between the teacher of record and the counselor. The other thing that the counselor can serve is the counselor can also be the teacher of record in some cases and facilitate some of the specific questions into content area if you're using a variance. It does keep some of our teachers who might be on prep or something like that from getting peppered with, can you open up this quiz and that kind of thing. You designate a counselor for that. And in the process, we do restore access to counseling at a greater amount when we went from 2 to 1. And the counselor and the dean of students would do a lot of the work with just, managing that piece and working together, collaborating for that piece. And then, of course, with that, there may be potentially some stipends that would be, if you don't have a teacher of record, you may have to have a stipend, which is a very affordable way. If a teacher's offering to give up their prep, we would have to pay them for that. And in some cases, it could be if it's 0 to 9 students, for example, that they're responsible for an excess, they would log it and be paid on a stipend for that, which is a lower amount. There's no benefit cost to that. It's just using your existing staff for those pieces. So it allows you to be flexible, and that's where having the infrastructure allows you to pivot quickly as the need comes up. And we may quickly find a need to expand it online, or we might find, who knows, it's a trend that is fading. People may not go that way, and we haven't been diving in. It's been super valuable to have Gina to consult, because she works in this world, and so she's got a lot of wisdom that we appreciated having the chance to talk with her about, and just would be a piece that we're looking at. So what we are looking at right now is just sharing this information with you. It's kind of a vision for what we know could bring in. There's 2 ways to look at it. One would be, if we have this survey, and in that answer, or that question that Tim provided, if we had people say we would come back for expanded work experience or something like that, it's really easy to say what the revenue is. The part that's challenging is we're also talking about potential savings where we have students identified that may leave the district or may be leaving for some of these things. That's a little bit of a tougher way to say it's generating revenue, because essentially you're still serving some of those students, but we have to have something in place to prevent, or just to allow kids to know that there's something for them here before they would choose to leave. But I think this is just additional information, like I said, of just how much to staff a full day. All right, with that, I know I talked a little longer than you probably wanted by this point, but it's important stuff, and I think it's really something we're passionate about serving every kid. Annandale's for everybody, and we know you all have that point of view. And one last thing with MTSS, which I know we haven't really talked a lot about, but the idea of if you do education in an optimal environment, you're teaching, about 80% of the kids get it on the first try. About 15% need a little extra help, and about 5% need something ongoing. And when you look at 600 students currently in our high school, and 30 currently meet the criteria, and we look at what's missing, what do we need? This is just an example of that. It's even 5%, which kind of comes out as it oughta.
And that, with that, I guess, with that, it's like, it's also looking at the students that we've lost this year, just this year alone. And I do think that this is an opportunity for some of those kids to come back. I mean, I've had recent conversations with parents that are like, you know, my kid just needs something different. And I'm thinking, oh, just wait, it's coming. We're hoping to meet that need. But just where parents are looking for something else, and I feel like Access Learning Academy would benefit many students on many different levels, and we can really reach a greater number of kids. And so hopefully some of the ones that have left us would come back, because there's opportunities here that there haven't been in the past.
Is that number 16 that we bought?
That's to the ALC.
Oh.
Yep. So ALC, but there's other ones that have been just to online.
But the 30 are still currently in our school?
30 are still currently in our school.
Still here.
Yep, we've identified them as ones that would be hit a lot of the criteria we went through. And then the 16 that we've lost, I don't know, I kind of think some of them will come back. And then some of the kids that are to online, because we have the component where we would be, like, you're not doing anything at home, so you need to come in now. Like, a lot of online they don't have that. So setting something like that up where students have to be held accountable in the week that they're in, not at the end of the term, where everyone's scrambling to do all the work, right, for online kids sometimes, but they're being held accountable in that week. I think that's going to be a benefit for parents too, to know that we're going to take action sooner or later. Yeah. Next school year, I had a parent ask today, like, isn't there something you guys can do like this school year? And she was asking it today. And because there's just such a need. And unfortunately, we're probably losing that kid to online. And as much as I persuaded and tried to, I'm hoping that we can reach back out when this happens next school year and really hopefully gain some of these kids back. Because I think it's going to meet their needs. And what I like is, I like that they can go to the art class. Art is their thing, but they kind of want to do a little bit of the alternative learning, and they want to do one online class because they want to experience it. But they can do that art class that they're so passionate about. So we're giving kids an opportunity to be the modern learner that they really want to be.
I like that we are having it here, school within a school, and we're doing it, we're not paying anybody, and
what's your max number?
Well, per class, we're looking at about 15, so like per block, there'd be about 15 students per block. And that, I would say, in most learning programs that I've been a part of, that's probably the max that you would see, so 1 teacher to 15.
So would that be like 60 total? Because it's 4 blocks, or?
If we went all day.
Okay.
Like right now, we're not starting out with all day. So yes, it could potentially be, and some kids will stay in all 4 blocks, and some kids will interchange.
since we've been talking so much about our budget, can you just explain again, like, what would this cost? I mean, cost, but then we gain.
Yes, so if we took the number, the 0.67, which would be a portion of that would be the 1.0 repurposing of high school, and there's a need for where that other piece of that would go. That would be about 43,000. The counselor would be about 67,000, so it puts us at around 109, 110 for just the added staff, then about 5,000 for Edmentum. So 15 students were actually coming out ahead on that 135,000. I was pretty proud of myself. I calculated that in my head, and I think I got it right on the first try this time. So 135,000 if we had 15.
Did you say at 15 students?
At 15 students.
Okay.
Yep. And that's not counting additional revenue from expanding work program. It's not counting the revenue streams for credit recovery, which stays here.
In summer school.
And summer school. Summer school is one of the bigger generators of revenue. And then again, if we have growth that bears it, we could look at all day, we could look at 2 classes at a time.
If it's when.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
what we would be looking for then is like, where are we gonna put all these kids? And there are kids currently, but that would be a nice problem to get back to is, we've got 650 kids, what are we gonna do with all of them? Right now, we've got 600. That's the space, we've got a few different possibilities. Ideally, you want it to be so that they can go there and kind of stay there for a while, and not, the passing time is a big trigger for a lot of students and those kinds of things. So you get them, we have a few different possibilities. We would probably be engaging our staff a little bit in that as far as ideas, just because I think we've talked about a few that we would get to. So if we're running with this, we're going very, very quickly to answer a lot of the rest of these questions, which are going to be very important.
And this is something you need to know soon for your registration, or when is that?
The registration, this particular piece isn't as important for the registration. We will still have students do their regular registration. I would say just for this has been a lot of...
It is important in the sense of we have to apply to the state. So
Yep.
I would like to, they have to review your thing and they have 30 days to basically tell you no, and you don't want to get too close to their deadline and all that jazz. So I would like to start working on the application as soon as possible, just so I know that we have it as a go. When we do the registration piece, one of the things that we'll do is, kids will all sign up for classes right now as if they're having regular classes. But then we will talk to some of these kids individually and obviously present this to the student body as well, letting them know what we're offering. And then we'll address kind of the 30 kids that we've identified as being kids that would fit the criteria.
So what would be the deadline to submit that? What would be the deadline to submit that application to allot for those 30 days, get the kickback in case they would say, oh, there's some adjustments that you need to make, or?
Right, okay, so we could do it as late as this summer, but I don't want to.
Okay. So
That makes me too nervous, yeah.
So when would you like to see the board submit a approval or whatnot?
If I could get started in it by February, I would love that.
Okay.
Also, do we have any idea if there's any grants for this? I know that that's like an extra step of above and beyond.
In past schools that I've worked with, I have written grants to get some funding for things. However, we'd probably be starting without that, just because I'll be focused on working on the application itself. But then it is important to look for partnership and funding just for different things that the students are going to want to do. Because one of the things that I didn't mention also is like giving these students opportunities to do once a month an outing of sorts, whether it's going to some local businesses or specifically some tech schools, getting some CTE looks at different places so that some kids that are interested in that have opportunities. And the same thing goes with some of the extended day. Some of the extended day won't just happen just on site at Annandale High School, but we'll be going out into the community to do some of the some opportunities there as well. So some grants will be needed just to help us be able to do some of those really cool things that are outside of our school as well.
So really, from the board standpoint, it's ideally a discussion approval by January, so we could get, February is for,
That's what I would like to go to. Right, and the more opportunity, the sooner we get it started, potential grant fundraising, I could move on to that after, you know what I mean, to get funding for, maybe not necessarily, it doesn't, can't be used for staff, but funding for the program itself. We could focus on some grant writing after that, once it's approved.
And a clarifying point, we have 30 that currently meet criteria, but the 0.67, 15 in a class, that would be 15 students. So we would need, so that's where a lot of times what we can do is we can rotate that a little bit, where if students have a desire to go and work experience, they may not need as much, they might need one class in there. So there's some creativity we can have. The counselor is part of the versatility of that too, because if we have a student who's coming in and wanting to do an online class during a period, that the ability to access a counselor to get working on the modules or things like that, gives us a little bit more flexibility so that we don't have to have as big of an ask on the classroom teacher side of it. But to go just per hour, if you go 2 sections of it, that's 30 max, that's 2 staff. So that's where a lot of times you're looking at an area of who has the greatest need for this. You do often wait list, and that is something that works with the accountability side, where if you tell a student, look, we've been working with your attendance, this is a privilege to be in here, you've got to be here, you've been gone now 3 days. If we don't commit to this and are here, we will need to give this seat to another student. So not that we want to build in the scarcity, but it is common for kids to get on a wait list. You give the greatest need typically first, and then after that you kind of look on a case-by-case basis of how that goes. And you're very criteria-based in how you run it. And there may come a point where we decide, hey, that 2 sections is necessary per hour. That may be the case, but we, like I said, we want to start small and build out.
And maybe just one more question, but it all sounds very positive. We were looking forward to this presentation. Are there any cons or negatives to this program?
I don't know if there'll be any negatives, but as with anything, it's going to be growing pains, right? So what we might do the first year might not be what it looks like the second year. And I do think that it will evolve with more community partnerships and more opportunities to get our kids out to see parts of the world, so to speak, and get into businesses and things that they're interested in. I think it's going to evolve into something really awesome, but it's going to take us time to get there. And so I look at it kind of as this is our first incremental stage, and then we'll keep building, and hopefully it's just a program that will keep growing year after year. I don't anticipate it, typically in an alternative learning program, not much stays the same for long because the modern world is changing and we got to change with it. And so what does that look like, and what kind of opportunities will that afford our kids? And when I look at student clientele that I've worked with in the past in an alternative learning program, one of the things I want to highlight too is these are not students that are lower level, like they just hate school, not necessarily. There might be some students that just really hate school, but I've had some brilliant students that have gone on to be engineers and they just needed something different for that time. And sometimes it's fluid as well, because sometimes it's like 10th grade, 9th grade was really hard. 10th grade, I'm really gonna come in, and guess what happens? They get their wings, they get excited, they start feeling confident. Like, I so can do that math again. Like, I didn't think I could do it, but I got this. And they're not in a program anymore. They go back into traditional education because they figured something out. It's not just math they figured out, but they figured out something within themselves. And so there's just power in seeing kids get their needs met where they're at in that moment, because seeing them fly down the road is amazing. It's amazing to see all of our kids fly, but to see a kid that's willing to take a chance on something different and seeing them grow, it's awesome.
I think too, with that, the growing into it, it has to be a mentality. It has to be, there's so many things, but I remember a kid asking me, I don't want to be in this, if I can't take college comp. So here's a kid who has the talent and the ability to take it, struggle with attendance, could do a lot of the work in his sleep, and got to a point where it was essentially asking to be out of the program, though not wanting to be out of the program. Those were sort of the pieces that were, but they don't always start there. There's a lot of growing into it. There's a lot of team building as a staff. But I love the fact that it says, without saying, it says we never give up on a kid. And so it's really rejuvenating in that way. So, yeah.
All right, well, thank you for that. And I mean, to keep as many kids as we can, and it's not just about the money, right? It's about the staff that we have and the people that work with our kids and who build those relationships with our students who make a difference. And as a parent, you probably know the teachers, right? So that's comforting to a parent to know that they could feel comfortable going to both of you or whatever teacher and kind of growing in this process with their child. So,
Can I just add, you know, and I see from the medicine standpoint, you know, this like traditional school versus online, there's just these two options, and I get kids that are struggling to find their niche, or they don't fit in, or they don't whatever over here, so they go to online school, and I see them 3 months later, and Lord Almighty, we are more depressed. So I feel like it's great to have this in between where kids are not so isolated on online school because traditional wasn't working. That it feels like both ends were maybe failing them, and there's got to be something in the middle because still seeing a ton of trouble just in the online side of things too. So.
thank you very much. Anything else anybody has?
I just have to say, I really like to meet the needs of the modern learner. I think in education itself, it's just changed so much, and I'm not gonna grab a microphone. And so I think that this is just an awesome opportunity that the timing is right for us to proceed with really exploring this and giving our students even more opportunities. We just happen to be in the business of education, but educating our students and giving them the opportunities for the future is what we're all here for. And this is just another prime example, and also a prime example of how there's so many moving parts to decisions and how things come together. So thank you very much, and I'm very excited to see that come to light.
Okay, so I will move on to number 7, which is the information items. 7A is our next monthly meeting. We'll be here at the Annandale Elementary School on Monday, January 27th at 7 p.m. And then our next work session is scheduled here on Monday, February 10th at 6 p.m. So I would need a motion to adjourn. A motion by Jen, second by Gina. Meeting is adjourned. Thanks for coming.